now we are going to learn in this session about the sagittal section of the brain. Now we know that in the cerebral hemisphere there are like totally three surfaces. One will be the superolateral surface, another one will be the medial surface, and then you have got the inferior surface. Now if you just look at this specimen here, I have just taken one half of the cerebrum. I mean to say I have taken like one cerebral hemisphere here. Now in this surface over here, this one over here will be the superolateral surface here. Now after that, this surface towards the medial side here, this one here will be the medial surface, and below here this one will be the inferior surface. So we all know very well that the cerebral hemisphere is actually divided into three surfaces. One will be the medial surface, and then you have got the superolateral surface and then inferior surface. Now today we are going to look at this specimen here, and in this one we are actually going to look at the medial surface of the brain, on the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere to be more specific. And on this surface we are basically going to learn about two important things here. One about the corpus callosum over here, and not only that, we are also going to learn about the third ventricle and all the boundaries of the third ventricle. So basically whenever you're going to learn about the sagittal section of the brain, along with that you also have to learn about the third ventricle and boundaries, and that will make this topic easier for you. And even the prof students who are actually watching this specimen right now, yes, in your exams you will be easily able to identify all the structures. In next few minutes I'll make everything clear for you. So let's get started. Now whenever you're looking at this specimen here of sagittal section of the brain, it's very easy to identify the medial surface of the brain. Yes, because of the presence of this structure that you're able to see here. And this one here will be the corpus callosum. Now this structure here will be the corpus callosum. Remember, the structures which are going to connect the right and left half of the brain are referred to as commissures, and there are so many of them. Out of all the commissure, the largest commissure will be the corpus callosum that you are able to see in this specimen over here. Now in this corpus callosum, remember, in total you'll be having four parts. There are totally four parts in this one. Now this one here will be the rostrum, and then this bent here will be the genu, followed by that this will be the body of the corpus callosum, and then finally this part here will be the splenium. And you can clearly see out of the four parts which I told you here, splenium will be the largest part of the corpus callosum. So remember, corpus callosum is actually the largest commissure. In that you'll be having four parts. Out of that, the largest part here will be the splenium. So therefore, my dear friends, let us just revise this again. This one here will be the rostrum, and then this is the genu here, and the body, and the splenium, the largest part. Now one important thing to make a note here is, which is the anterior most part. Usually we have a habit of learning like, rostrum will be the anterior most part. But remember, in this specimen you can very clearly see the genu here will be the anterior most part of the corpus callosum. Now why I'm stressing on this point here? Why? Because recently in one of the competitive exam, it has been asked that the anterior most part of the corpus callosum is supplied by which blood vessels. So you got to remember, the anterior most part is not the rostrum here, it's actually the genu here. Now once you are done with this one, just below the body of the corpus callosum, this septum that you are able to see here, this translucent septum, let me show it like this here. This is the translucent septum here, this one. And this septum here will be referred to as septum pellucidum. And recently in one of the competitive exam, there was a cadaveric image given, and in this image, this was arrow marked, and you need to identify that septum. It's very easy to identify. Below the body of the corpus callosum, you are able to see this septum attached here. That one will be the septum pellucidum. And on either side of the septum pellucidum, you'll be able to appreciate the lateral ventricles. And lateral ventricles are the one which are found in the telencephalon, the cerebral hemispheres. So the ventricles of cerebral hemispheres will be the lateral ventricle. In fact, if you just approach from here, this one here will be the lateral ventricle. And then yes, one more lateral ventricle will be present over here, and between the two lateral ventricles you are able to appreciate the septum. That septum here will be the septum pellucidum. Now further moving down here, attached to the lower margin of septum pellucidum, this is the lower margin of septum pellucidum here. Attached to that, this very important structure here, this one will be nothing but your fornix. This one here will be the fornix. It is actually a part of your limbic system, and this one here will be the fornix. Try to understand in such a way that the septum pellucidum here, the lower margin of that will be attached to the fornix here.